check out a video that I made a while back. This is from the hometown stories we did when we were in Portland. I'll give a little bit of background on this because it was kind of a funny journey. We were on tour and we had done a show in Portland, and it was a great show. And then we had some time in Portland before the next show. And so, of course, we were like, let's do some guerrilla bars. And so we went downtown Portland, and we tried to do some guerrilla bars, and we struggled, man. It was a tough session. Yeah. I don't know what it was. You know, it was like a typical gray day in Portland. So sometimes when it's overcast, it affects my mood a little bit. It affects the energy a little bit, maybe. And for whatever reason, like the first place that we went to try to do guerrilla bars, it seemed like it should have been solid, but like we just weren't quite connecting the dots, man. It just like wasn't quite happening. It was a struggle. And it was one of the first times in a long time, really ever, where like at the end of the day, we were like, damn, I don't know if we got it. Like, I don't know if we did the job. Like we might not even have one episode of material here. Like, damn, how'd we let that happen? So we were kind of down on ourselves, you know? And
that's the only time.
Yeah.
It's the only time I can remember that.
It's the only time. And so that made it even worse, you know. Granted, like, you know, okay, like you can't knock it out of the park every time. We should have been easier on ourselves. But naturally, we were just kind of like, oh man, that sucks, you know. So
that's that day where we have it in a behind the bar. It's like we're walking through like a carnival and like someone throws like food at you.
Yeah, dude, someone threw food at me. It was just weird vibes. Like it was negative, kind of. Like, yeah, it wasn't hitting the way it normally does. So we were like, dude, what the hell? Like people were booing us, throwing food at us. Like nobody wants this. And so I was like, you know, we were kind of like, what are we going to do? Are we going to try to go back out tomorrow? And it kind of ended with just like, let's just like break for tonight, get some rest. I'll let you guys know what I want to do, you know, to you and Khan. I was like, oh, I'll text you guys tomorrow. And the next day, wake up, you know, the sun's shining. I feel sort of renewed and inspired, as often happens. It's amazing what a night's sleep will do. And I was like, man, you know what? We were trying too hard. Like we had too much of an expectation for what we needed from this shoot. And so when we didn't get what we wanted to get, i.e. at least one, maybe two episodes of Guerrilla Bars, we felt disappointed. I was like, let's just get back to doing it for us and doing something that we think is cool and sort of just like shifting our expectation and making it more about feeling good in the moment. And so I was like, hey, let's just go around to some like spots that are meaningful to me in Portland, and I'll just freestyle outside of the spots and sort of like maybe share some stories or just like pay some tribute to some of the places that made me. And of course, the irony is after doing this, then we were like, oh, let's try to grab some Guerrilla Bars. And it went super well, probably because we, you know, removed the expectation and allowed ourselves to have fun and do it for the love. So I think there's a lesson in there for sure. But anyway, this is one of the places that we did the hometown stories at. And it's the record shop /CD/tape shop that I bought like all my first hip hop CDs at when I was growing up in Portland. And it's called Millennium. Let's check it.
Yeah, before I rap to get low, I was out here doing it big, dude. Representing with a sick crew. This is the Freestyle Music Millennium Tribute. I'm about to put it down, the #1 performer. Follow me while we make our way around the corner. Yeah, hey yo, we got the beats bouncing. Whenever I be rhyming, I leave the people astounded. Yeah, and y'all know that it's work for me. Vocational, B1, the most sensational selections that y'all have ever seen. Mack,
little hiccup right there, it's all good.
I give you more hard to the core, never leave them bored. And when I open up my mind, I start to explore. I swing the Excalibur, I'm sharp with the darts, do it easily. My life is a movie printed to DVD, old school. Hey yo, we brought the moving pictures. When it comes to rhymes, I be shining like a fixture. The illest they consider, these other rappers bitter. I knock it out the park, I'm the #1 hitter. Hey yo, I'm about to tell y'all a story that's rare. When me and the homie Brady walked up these stairs, this was years ago, probably 2003. We walked up these stairs with our demo CD. So young and innocent, we were on the shit. We knocked on the the door and said, can we get a sponsorship? The dude smiled big, thought that it was funny. He said, we can't sponsor artists, we ain't got that money. But he did respect our passion, and yo, we loved it. Especially because we done typed up a budget. $500 for multi-track recorder, so we can make more CDs for our supporters. Couple $100 to cop CDRs. We had the vision, had the dream of being stars. Okay, we got denied, but it taught an important lesson. You gotta try more than once to start manifesting. Yeah, one failure, but we learned from it. And yo, it made the passion burn deeper in our stomachs. Shout out to the man who smiled and said no, cause he could have been rude about it. Did he do that? No. He respected the flow, he respected the grind, he respected the passion and knew in time we would shine. He respected the moves we was making. I'm pretty sure he respected the energies that we were creating. Shouts to Brady B, he lived a few blocks that way. We would walk through the neighborhood, let our raps lay. Even past late hours when the neighbors would complain, we were still spitting flavors off the brain. Real stories from my past, I'ma stay sending them. Copped a lot of classics here at Music Millennium. Yeah, and y'all know to us, Gift the Gab was an amazing pharaoh. This is where our first cop blazing arrow. Shouts out to Chief Excel, R.I.P. to Gift the Gab. Hey yo, we used to listen to that with pen and pad in hand and trying to comprehend them lyrics. Yeah, that record there, it was lifting our spirits. Y'all know I come through with all the truest raps, they ain't new to that. This is where I first ever heard of Super Nat. Hip hop section, top 5 picks from the week. It was all up at the top and it wasn't cheap. $12 at the time, 2 weeks of allowance. But I knew I had to cop it, so I would allow it. Brought that disc home. Once again, I find an artist that is new to me that blew my mind. Word to Supernatural. Hey yo, the freestyle father, the one who taught the setup, punchline, and how to slaughter. Now we trying to carry on that baton. I was playing classic CDs, I would rap along. Beyond Black Delicious, we was copping the roots in Jurassic 5 with flavors that we couldn't compute. Aesop Rock, LP, can't forget Mr. Lip, whole definitive jug show. We had to get with this every other week. $10 in my pocket, maybe 15. I would spend the whole profit on a CD, cause I knew I had to cop it. Doing research for the future, had to spend it. It's just logic. What?
Woo! That was a good one, man. Wow. Damn. Wow. Yeah. All right. So, man, yeah, so much. It's funny because so many things that are mentioned in that freestyle relate to things that we already actually talked about earlier. And it kind of like summarized a lot of the answers I was given to the community questions, which is cool. And I like this one too. You can feel that in the beginning, I'm like, yo, just giving a tribute to Music Millennium. I'm walking by, I'm rounding the corner. I'm referencing all the things. I'm kind of warming my mind up. I said earlier, I was like, oh, slight hiccup right there when I say vocational. I couldn't quite figure out how I was going to set up sensational. So you hear me go, it's my job, vocational, be the most sensational or something like that. You can feel me kind of like pushing through it, which is good. I always like to highlight those things to show that, it's always a work in progress. But anyway, as I'm moving down the wall, it's like I'm kind of warming my mind up and stuff. And then that flow state thing started happening once I committed to telling the story, and it pertains to what I'm talking about too, with when you drop in and start the run, it's like you kind of just like, you have to dive in, and it's that commitment to this thing that's challenging, because it's hard to tell a coherent like narrative story while you're freestyling off the top. That was the whole point of making this video in part, was to sort of challenge myself to see if I could actually share these stories in a way that would like make sense and be conveyed effectively to the listener while improvising. And once I got into the story, I feel my adrenaline just watching it. It's like I could feel myself getting pumped up. It's like each couplet that passed, it was like when I was in the attic, like I shared earlier, one of my early memories of hitting flow state was almost like each successful couplet you stack, you're like, oh shit. And you can't think about the fact that it's working because you got to keep pushing through and getting to the next segment. But yeah, man, we really did go up there in middle school. We did type up a budget that was like $1,000 total. Someone had handed us a mixtape at some point that was sponsored by like a local business, in Portland. And so we got it in our heads like, oh, that's how it works. If you can get sponsored.
Was it like a printed CD, like a label on it and everything?
Yeah, it was like on the back of the CD, it was like sponsored by, and then it had like, a logo for a local business. I don't remember what it was, but I guess it was like, they gave them some money to make the mixtape or something like that. So they got their logo on it, and we were like, oh, that's tight. Like we should try that, and we were already like loyal customers at Music Millennium, and it was in the neighborhood. So yeah, we had this whole plan, dude. Begin with the end in mind. You know, you got to visualize where you're trying to go. We were like, yo, we need $1,000. We're trying to buy a multi-track recorder, a gang of CDRs. We need a microphone. We need XYZ. We're going to make this album or mixtape. And yeah, it was dope, man. I mean, I shared it all in the rap, but the dude that greeted us at that door, it's funny, that awning just says Millennium Office. And I guess on a walk one day we had noticed that, because that's like way behind you would never think to go up there, you know. But yeah, we were like, that's where we're gonna have to go. We're sure of it, you know. So we just walked up the stairs, knocked on the sliding glass door, and then the dude that like talked to us was really kind, you know. He listened to us and he looked at our thing, and we were fucking 12, dude. Like 12-year-old kids up there, like, yeah. So what do you think? Like, you want to sponsor our mixtape? And he was just like, man, this is awesome. Like, good job, you guys. Like, it's so cool that you put this together. But like, we are a record/CD/tape store. And like, have you guys heard of Napster? Like, we don't have it. We're like trying to figure it out. We need a sponsor. No, probably not. They were doing fine. But he was like, we don't have a budget to do this, obviously. But he did say, and I didn't mention this in the rhyme, he was like, if you guys make a mixtape, you can sell it here on consignment. You know, I'll give you guys the consignment form, and anybody could do this, you know. But it was still really cool that he mentioned it as like a path for us, because I'm sure it did motivate us. But, you know, basically, if you have an album and you're a local musician, you can sell it in the store, and Music Millennium keeps a cut of all the sales or whatever. So yeah, shout out to that dude for being for not like crushing our dream. He could have been rude about it. And there's actually, by the way, there's a story in this Hometown Stories about another adult that we interfaced with as we were on the come up that was not kind about it. That was actually quite rude to us. So that's a little spoiler, no spoiler, but that's some motivation to watch the full Hometown Stories. But no, this guy was really really cool to us. And yeah, I think I mean, there's so much that was shared in there. We lived in the neighborhood. I was talking about how we would even late into the night be ciphering in the streets. Even when the neighbors would complain, we still had to come with the flavors that's insane or something like that. Yeah, that was like a specific memory I was reflecting on, where I just remember we were just like on the sidewalks and our friend was beatboxing and there were like 6 of us and we were just rapping so loud walking around. And like the cops actually rolled on us and were like, yo, like we've gotten like multiple complaints, you know? We're like, what the fuck?
Just out of freestyle stroll.
Yeah. There were like noise complaints, you know, like stacking up as we moved through the neighborhood. So that's a fun little tidbit. But then, yeah, like it's really meaningful too. Like all the incredible artists that I was exposed to, you know, through this place back when like the only way that like the main way that I had to like access new music was through this place, Music Millennium, which is like actually going there on foot, like walking there with my little allowance that I saved up and just seeing what the like recommended hip hop picks were for the week. And shout out to whoever the staff was that picked those, because they had great taste and they would highlight a lot of like more underground independent type stuff. And yeah, first time I heard Black Alicious, Blazing Arrow, super important record to me. I've talked about it a lot. Rest in peace to Gift of Gab. You know, we bought that here. And Super Nat, who I talked about earlier, and again in the rhyme about how, you know, this dude is foundational. You know, like make no mistake, if there's no Super Nat, like there's no Harry Mack having a career as like a full-time freestyler. Like, you know, Super Nat is the first person I'm aware of that did that had a super successful career mainly as an off-top freestyle guy, and is super influential and who I learned so much from hearing on that Lost Freestyle Files. So that came from here, you know, just walking there one day and just happenstance that it was recommended as a pick, and J5 and the Roots and Def Jokes and all those things. And I do think it's cool, you know, now in this time where like we have Spotify and we have YouTube and these are great resources, and it's amazing actually to have access to all of the music all the time. Like it's really, really dope. But, you know, it does sometimes create this sort of overwhelm or this like feeling of paralysis where it's like there are so many options and things that you could listen to at any given moment that sometimes it's hard to pick one thing to listen to and really listen deep. And often, you know, there's this like nagging feeling even after you make a selection where it's like, 3 tracks into an album, you're like, I wonder if I should be listening to something else, you know? And I hate that. But I experience it, you know? And I think a lot of people maybe experience something similar. So it's hard to lock in. And I think that's one thing that I do miss when I reminisce on like Music Millennium and having my Discman and my little binder of CDs is like, I would really commit and listen deep. Like whatever the new CD was that I had, that was like basically what I was listening to for the next couple weeks until I was able to go buy another one. And I think that level of depth was like really valuable early on, you know, because I was really a fan of these people, and I really like knew all the words, and I knew the liner notes. I knew who produced what, and that's how I learned about other people. You know, it ballooned out. It's like, oh, who produced this beat? Oh, dope. Maybe I should check them out. Who's DJ Shadow? You know, oh, drummer featured on this. Questlove. Who's that? Oh, The Roots. Oh, you know, so like it was really like a deep dive, and spending a lot of time with the music, you know, was huge for me early on. So
yeah, I feel like back when, you know, we were just rocking CDs, and, you know, I'm on the bus with like my anti-shock Walkman that's still skipping, whatever. But
Yeah.
you would fall so deeply into a whole album because that's just on repeat. And like I would know every word to every song on this album, and that was like the anthem of my life, like that summer or that July. And like it just kind of like you got closer to a lot of the work. Then I mean, you can still do that now, but like you said, I don't know. There's just so many options that it's more rare for me personally.
Definitely, dude. For me too. Yeah. And you could do it, but it requires a ton of discipline because like the culture doesn't really promote it or reward it, right? Like the culture is so based around like constant consumption, constant novelty, you know, it's like the TikTokification of everything, you know.
Even the albums are like more like focused on singles.
Yeah, totally. A lot of albums feel like a collection of singles. So the art of making an album is not always taken into consideration these days. And yeah, I mean, you got to have some real strong blinders up to be like, I'm only going to listen to this album for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you know? But it would be valuable.
Sick, dude. I think the pivot that you laid out there, like when we kind of missed the mark on the Gorilla Bar shoot, and you know it was like a cloudy day, and this video just brought me back to how like refreshing it was the next day. I was like, all right, sick. When you pitched that idea, and I'm like, I guess it's like story time for me. Like,
yeah, dude. It was fun, and I'm smiling through this whole freestyle too. Like it was fun to reminisce. So it was the medicine we needed, man.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Then we actually like even shot like a little Gorilla Bars thing like right on this corner right after, I think. So
yeah, I was wondering, was it the dude messing with the bike in his trunk that whole time or no?
Oh, was he pulling a bike out? I can't remember, but
somebody was doing something in their
awesome,
trunk. But I ended up freestyling for a guy on his bike who was really awesome. Yeah.
That's cool.
Good times. Oh shit, man. Wow. Another fun episode of Flow State for y'all. I enjoyed myself. I had fun.
Hell yeah.
Sam, did you have fun?
Another epic episode.
Dude, the episode, man.
Kind of going through your whole backstory a little bit.
Yeah. Lots of history was shared, man. So it's always a good time. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast.